Gonna get hotter than a $2 pistol in Denver this week as the state prepares for drought. Water systems warn people to leave sprinklers off till May, and orchards are in bloom with freezes likely ahead.
This is too early for this. It feels really displaced.
After the Evergreen school shooting, Democrats backing a bill to force social media companies to identify threats face opposition from the Democratic governor. Evangelical Christians land 2 anti-trans measures on November's ballot. Opponents say it's just bullying via the law. And we ask the age-old question, where's the beef now that so much of it that used to be processed in Greeley is being shipped out of state due to the strike? That's tonight on Next. 90 degrees in Denver this week while still technically in winter, so it's time to start preparing for drought in Colorado. Today, the governor activated the state's drought task force, citing the severe drought conditions across a third of the state. The task force brings a bunch of state agencies under one roof, in the dark perhaps, to monitor drought impacts. That particular step has not been activated since 2020, a historic year for wildfires. That's when we saw the 3 largest fires in recorded Colorado history in quick succession in one summer and fall: Pine Gulch, Cameron Peak, East Troublesome. There are cities in the metro area already announcing restrictions on outdoor watering for the year. In Thornton, people won't be allowed to start their sprinklers until May, and outdoor watering will be limited to 2 days a week. Denver Water is already asking customers to voluntarily keep their automatic irrigation off until at least mid-May. And it doesn't stop at the drought and the dry conditions. Consistent warm temperatures earlier in the year can confuse nature. We talked with urban farmers in the suburbs who say their fruit trees are blooming, their honeybees have left the hive, and when the inevitable freeze hits, woof. Here's Spencer Soischer.
No need for patience, young grasshopper. The honeybees are buzzing, and things are blooming in Denver. It's March 17th.
This is too early for this. It feels really displaced.
Creighton Hoffeditz is the director of gardens and food forests for Denver Urban Gardens' 200 sites.
This is our horse barn garden.
And their gardens are well ahead of schedule.
We're seeing ladybugs pop up all over our gardens.
That wouldn't be as big of a problem if we were done with hard freezes. But again, it's March 17th.
In Colorado, in the Front Range in general, we have wildly vacillating temperatures. So we'll have fruit trees that will bloom early, and then we get a freeze that kills them. That happened at this fruit tree, this peach tree here. Last week it was covered in pink blossoms, and then it was 20 degrees over the weekend, and all those blossoms are dead. So
Clayton is less worried about the seasonal garden stuff that hasn't been planted, and more concerned about the urban farmers and their orchards, with fruit trees that may bloom too early and then freeze.
Certainly the bloom time is a big factor here.
When it gets too warm too early, it tricks Mother Nature.
CSU podology professor Gene Kelly says for farmers outside of Denver, this stretch of heat brings another challenge to a growing problem: not enough water for crop irrigation.
In our mountain areas, when we do have snowpack, it just melts too quickly. And so we don't get a real storage element of our water.
Too warm, too early means no patience needed to watch a mid-March bloom. But it might also mean a limit to what can be picked from the trees this summer.
I'm less focused on this year, but the idea that this could be a new normal and how we would adapt to it.
So our #1 fruit crop in Colorado is peaches. Of course, the famously delicious Palisade peach from the Western Slope. Normally, the Western Slope is cooler than Denver, but it's a more stable cool, less of the extreme ups and downs in temperature. But Chris is forecasting consistently higher temperatures there too. So what will that mean for the peaches this year? We'll find out.
With all respect to Denver Urban Gardens, I need my peaches. I need my Rocky Ford melons, right? You know, that's stuff people wonder about. And still, we're dealing with a very unpredictable element, which is the weather.
Well, and the good thing with the Rocky Ford melons, at least, is you can decide when you're going to plant and when you're going to put the seeds in. And
sure.
You can't exactly move a tree around as easily as you would maybe something to grow a melon with. So.
Yeah, it's the orchards that could be in really rough shape. All right, Spencer Soischer, thank you. Governor Jared Polis is signaling that he will veto an effort by fellow Democrats to force social media companies to quickly work with law enforcement to prevent possible school shootings. This all came about because the Anti-Defamation League says that it alerted the FBI to concerning posts made by the Evergreen High School shooter before he shot and injured two of his classmates and killed himself last September. 75 days before the shooting, the ADL sent a tip about the shooter's post to the FBI in New York, raising concerns about online postings where the shooter threatened to hurt people. The FBI filed 3 search warrants, obtained the IP address, URL, eventually the home address of the shooter. That information reached the Jeffco Sheriff's Office 2 days after the school shooting. Democrats who represent the Evergreen area have introduced a bill that would require social media companies to comply with search warrants within 24 hours. The bill also would require big social media companies to report users to law enforcement if the user posts information about imminent or specific threats or criminal behavior in Colorado.
This bill does not ask companies to remove posts or shut down websites. It simply demands that when a specific imminent threat is identified, the information moves fast enough to save lives.
Bill is set for its first committee hearing tomorrow, but the governor's office is already sounding the veto siren, telling us that the bill would, quote, negatively impact freedom, innovation, and privacy. Governor Polis does support a narrower bill that would require social media companies to comply with warrants quickly, but not to report their users to law enforcement over threats. That's a bipartisan bill that's close to passing, and the governor says he'll sign it. 2 anti-trans voter initiatives being organized by evangelical Christians have made Colorado's ballot in November. One would ban trans kids from gender-specific sports teams, and the other would outlaw gender-affirming surgery for children. Republican former state senator Kevin Lundberg says the measures are to, quote, stop the transgender plague in Colorado. The ballot initiatives are from his group, Protect Kids Colorado, which he leads alongside Aaron Lee, a parent activist who claims that Colorado's legislators are, quote unquote, actual demons. Here they are discussing the ballot measures with televangelist and self-described Christian nationalist prophet Lance Wallnau, who helped them launch Protect Kids Colorado. Lundberg described the anti-trans measures as a way to pump up conservative turnout in the midterms.
This will change the conversation in 2026 for the elections overall in this state. I believe that this is the point of the spear, you might say.
I like to say that gender ideology is our state mandated religion, that we have more insane, radical, unconstitutional law that harms children, that pushes this ideology than any other state.
The LGBTQ advocacy group Rocky Mountain Equality opposes the ballot measures, saying that they're an effort by, quote, a small group of hateful people to make bullying trans kids the law. Homeland Security is holding 6 times as many kids in immigration detention facilities as before President Trump took office, with the Trump administration booking at least 3,800 children in detention since January of 2025, according to the Marshall Project. Among those children are the kids of the man who was charged in the anti-Semitic firebombing attack in Boulder. Those family members were here legally, but then one member of the family was charged with a crime, and they were all rounded up for deportation. The family wrote letters to a U.S. Senate committee last week asking to be let out. Here's Angeline McCall with that.
It's been 9 months since the Boulder attack, and for 9 months, the suspect's wife and 5 children have been in ICE custody for a crime they say they didn't know would take place. In letters submitted to the U.S. Senate Committee on the Judiciary, the man's wife and kids detail what it's like being detained in ICE's only family holding facility. It's called Dilley Immigration Processing Center, not far from San Antonio. The suspect's wife writes, "This place has destroyed my children, both physically and mentally." His kids, who range from 5 to 18 years old, write they are trapped in a nightmare we didn't create, sharing they didn't have any prior knowledge of the attack, and one of the kids writing, "If I had known, I would have definitely tried to stop him." The family has been granted bond twice, but the federal government has challenged those decisions and ordered the family to stay in detention. Lawyers for the El Gamal family wrote to the congressional committee they believe the family has been held the longest of any family with kids under the latest Trump administration in the system's only family holding facility. And some context here, there is something called the Flores Settlement, which states the federal government is not allowed to hold children past 20 days. The Trump administration continues to challenge that policy, and we know many of these kids, including this Colorado family, have been held for far longer. NBC News obtained data that shows the administration has held 900 children past that 20-day mark as of this January, so within just the last few months, Kyle.
Angeline, there have been some really ugly accusations and descriptions of the conditions there at Dilley.
Yeah, and from this family as well, they talk about things like moldy food, worms in the food. They talk about delayed medical treatment. Even one of the kids says that they suffered from appendicitis and that there were hours between getting that medical care. We did reach out to ICE, and they denied all of those claims.
Angeline McCall. Thank you, Angeline. The Democrats who run the state capitol are moving forward with their efforts to limit the power of federal immigration officers and to create new state oversight powers. This is stuff that is sure to draw legal challenges from the Trump administration. One bill, backed by progressive Democrats in particular, would impose sweeping new oversight requirements on ICE operations. The bill would, among other things, require state agencies to publicize subpoenas they get from federal immigration authorities and notify the subject that they're targeted by a subpoena. It would also prohibit governmental entities and airports from contracting with ICE to transport detainees and give public health leaders more authority to inspect ICE holding facilities. The bill squeaked out of its first committee with a warning from some Democrats that this proposal might overstep the bounds of state authority and needs a lot of work. Right now, the House Judiciary Committee is still debating a separate proposal that would open federal officers up to state prosecution on criminal charges. The proposal would also ban former or current immigration officers from ever getting a law enforcement job in Colorado. A panel of state legislators have found probable cause that one of their peers was a total creep and needs sexual harassment training.
I think it's really hard to avoid an impact if it is a strike that continues on for some time.
Colorado's largest beef processing plant is shut down during a strike. Could be a while, though, before customers see an impact. And a new report predicts that Xcel's customers will be paying the bill as Xcel kicks off a multi-billion-dollar expansion. A House Ethics Committee is recommending sexual harassment training for a Republican legislator accused of being a creepy weirdo around women. Representative Ron Weinberg, who represents Loveland, is accused of making a series of sexually inappropriate comments to fellow Republicans. Lots of genitalia talk, and misusing a master key to get into another legislator's office without permission. Weinberg initially asked for a hearing where the Bipartisan Ethics Committee would look at evidence, but then he withdrew that request. So instead, the committee made a recommendation based on probable cause. They voted unanimously to recommend that he face a formal admonishment from House leadership and go through sexual harassment training. Weinberg's also accused of misusing his campaign funds, including his sponsorship of an Israeli rugby team. The Secretary of State's office is investigating those claims. Weinberg has announced he's not seeking re-election. As thousands of workers continue to strike at the JBS Meatpacking facility in Greeley, several other stressors on the beef industry could threaten supply in the meantime. For now, JBS has moved its operations in Greeley to other facilities to minimize the impact of the strike. But there are other issues the industry is monitoring, like the rise in fuel prices, drought, and a long-term shortage in the cattle supply. A professor in meat safety and quality at CSU says while this strike isn't going to impact beef prices short-term, it could down the road.
It's not isolated to just the plant and the employees who are actively working day to day in the plant. There's an entire ecosystem that surrounds the beef supply chain. I think it's really hard to avoid an impact if it is a strike that continues on for some time.
Those workers at JBS say they want better pay, they want safer working conditions. As of now, JBS is not budging on its contract offer. Meteorologist Chris Bianchi, we were texting each other this morning. Jalen Waddle is coming to the Denver Broncos. Hope he likes warm weather?
He's got it. He's got it. I mean, he's leaving Miami, but he's coming to Miami at a mile high in elevation. At least in terms of temperature, the next 4 days, it's going to be warmer in Denver than Miami, and it's not going to be close. Take, for example, Thursday, 81 in Denver, 75 in Miami. We're going to be at least 5 degrees warmer than Miami each of the next 4 days, and that goes to just speak to how warm this stretch is. We've been talking about this for a few days now, right? We're not just talking about, okay, we're getting a little taste of spring, we're going to get in the 70s. This is a true midsummer-like heat dome that we're seeing in mid-March. Historic stuff. Our warmest March temperature on record, likely to be broken this week. Our earliest 90 plus on record. Now, that is not currently in the forecast, but it's going to be pretty darn close on Saturday to getting to 90 degrees. And we're likely to be talking about 4 straight days at or above 80 degrees. We have never had that on record in the month of March in Denver, Colorado. We've never had 4 80-plus days any time of the year or any time of March on record for us here in Denver. So this is wild stuff, and that's thanks to just the really strong ridge of high pressure that's just going to anchor and intensify and sit and spin and get closer and closer to Colorado. And folks, this is going to briefly go away, but watch this here on that 7-day forecast, right? The hottest day of the stretch. Again, 4 straight days at or above 80 degrees. Absurd. I don't use that word lightly. It is an absurd forecast. This is a June forecast I'm showing you mid to late March. Take a look at this, though. Sunday and Monday, low 70s, and then we spike right back up again. And the causes of this, certainly a very, very persistent weather pattern with a La Nina that continues to keep us locked in this weather pattern. Of course, this is exacerbated by a warming climate as well.
Xcel says it has to keep building more to meet demand. A new report suggests that means customers will keep paying more. You will continue to pay free $99 to stream Next on 9 News Plus each weeknight at 6. And Next is also a podcast wherever you find those. A new report predicts that residential Xcel customers could see their electricity bills go up by as much as 55% by 2031, while the utility's profits are on track to double to more than $1.9 billion. If you mail in a check with your Xcel bill, write congrats on it, just shout them out. Xcel's got some growing to do to address a massive boom in electricity demand, driven partly by an influx of large customers like AI data centers. A report presented to Colorado's Public Utilities Commission, state regulators, last week said that Xcel needs to build $12 billion worth of new transmission projects in the next few years if they're going to meet demand. But it's hard to predict just how much power those large customers are going to end up using, so it's difficult to gauge whether average customers are going to end up paying for unused capacity. State regulators are trying to figure out how Xcel is going to fund the expansion while also trying to keep bills as low as possible for customers. The report estimates it would take a 12% reduction in Xcel's spending just to keep electricity rates on par with inflation.
Just think the concern is that this evolving, call it Clean Energy 2.0 plan may not be the one that optimizes the company's capital spending and earnings. So may be challenging to achieve under existing regulatory approaches.
State regulators are considering ideas like limiting Xcel's spending, adding efficiency metrics for new projects, and requiring more of a financial commitment from large customers. Marilyn is here with her nightly commitment to bringing us feedback.
Here you go.
Thank you very much. That's next. Oh, Tex says, where's your green? She's wearing it.
I got my green. Where's your green, Kyle?
Feedback tonight from Craig, who writes, why does Xcel Energy advertise when it's a monopoly? Right, Craig? This is the exact same thinking why I tell my wife we don't need to get each other Valentine's Day gifts, but every year she insists, no, it's something that we're supposed to do. Mark writes, I don't think Representative Ron Weinberg needs sexual harassment training. It sure sounds like he has already mastered it. Do you ever think something and think, I can't say that out loud? And then somebody else in the room says it? Anyway, we're back with your feedback. No, we're not. Show's over. I'll see you next time.